All right, peace and black power. Welcome to another edition of Baba TV. Every time fire, and it's always my privilege and pleasure to be in the company of my big brother Sankofa, again, one of the major founding fathers and components of Baba TV that wouldn't exist without brother Sankofa. For those of you who may be new to the channel, he has his own category. If you go on Baba TV and scroll, you will see his uh, information there, his playlist there. With that being said, uh, good to see you, my brother. How's it going?
Everything is going good, brother. Stress levels down, confidence levels up, working on my focus, my fitness, blueprinting, strategizing always, staying healthy and always staying dangerous. Because one of the most dangerous people in society is an intelligent, fearless, and unapologetically militant black man. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I'm maintaining, my brother. It's a new year. It's definitely an honor and privilege to be back before the lens, before the viewers of Baba TV. Always a great honor, always a great privilege, and I thank you so humbly and graciously once again, brother Baba, for allowing me on the platform so we can go in and chop it up tonight. Okay, about politics, race, crime, and Black America. You know what I mean? Yes, indeed.
All
What's up
right.
with that intro? Did you play that intro yet? I didn't even
No,
hear it, brother.
we gonna do it. We gonna do it.
Oh, okay, yeah, that was
I want
fire. I was like, shout out to the brother Kim too,
yes,
out there
sir.
listening, man. Brother's fire. Has some of the dopest music, flyest clothes, man. Support that brother, man. Make sure you put his information up in the description link.
Yes, sir. There
Let's
you go,
get it.
right there. He in the chat. There you go, right there.
Salute, salute,
Brother
brother
Jack
Kim.
Kim.
Peace.
uh Real quick, like a sidebar, brother Sankofa, I've been watching on this news here, and it seems as though they shutting President Trump down, all his social networks, all of his ignorant followers, his personality worshipers. They're not able to get their next cue, I guess, from him on via the internet. And a quick question: how does it seem like, how did all of these white folks was able to get in the Capitol? Was it staged? It seemed like they just easily, you know, got in, and now we seeing from the people that they caught so far, some of them the sons of judges, police,
Mm-hmm.
uh armed forces, and the whole gamut. Was this staged?
Um, I don't think it would be far fetched to say that it may have been. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason why I say that, because when a lot of people were, because I was at work when it was popping off, so I heard about the news, got the update on Google, news real quick on my phone. So I didn't get a chance to check it out. When I got to the house late, a little bit after the fact, in the same evening, and checked out the news, right? It was all over the news, of course. I didn't see white people break in and storm the Capitol. What I seen was them get let in to the Capitol building. I didn't see them storming, they were let in. Do you know how much that is one of the most highly secured institutions on earth? One of the most highly protected and secured places that there is in America and in the world. So for armed militia, yeah, we know white privilege is real and all of that. You know what I'm saying? However, that was just a little bit too much to be taken serious as it pertaining to it being exactly what it was appearing to look like. They just stormed in, which they didn't again, because what I seen was them being let in. You know what I'm saying? Taking selfies, defecating on, urinating on rugs, destroying property. You know what I'm saying? What, they pounded out a cop to death with a fire extinguisher. You know what I'm saying? So And the reason why, I mean, look at it. You got to go through so many different, you got to be clear to get to different places on those grounds, to get to the Capitol, just to get to on the lawn, to get past the lawn onto the stairs, even to get into into the you know, different areas within that institution, in that building. Is going to take certain clearance and what have you, identification. You have to be able to pass certain security, you know what I'm saying, regulations and requirements in order to get in there. Again, one of the most highly protected, surveilled, and secured places in the world, and they were let in there. If you really look at what happened, and the reason why I would believe that that could happen, because a lot of the things that we're seeing is not just shock value. A lot of the things that we're seeing taking place in these interesting times that we are in on the news are things that are being stage setters. They're setting the stage for certain things to take precedence, for certain legislature to come into effect and enact policy that is going to affect us on many levels in society. So get ready to see an uptick in white militia activity, hostility, in their presence, being more boisterous and challenging a lot of us on the stances upon which we have claimed to stand strong on for so long. You know what I mean? You're going to see an uptick in that, you know? And you talked about sidebar, to that sidebar point that you brought up, which is a very good point. You know, they talked about the McCarran Act, the King Alfred Plan, and stuff like that. And this was supposed to be something that was enacted by legislature in the 1950s. It was called the McCarran Act. Okay, and it was upgraded into what was known as the RX 84 plan in 1984, supposedly under Ronald Reagan. And it was supposed to be what it's pertaining to is how they would deal with Black, Latino, and other poorer segments of society's response to what they perceive as social injustice, and in response would cause civil unrest or rioting, and how they plan to counter that. And one of the things in which they used to counter that was militia groups. A lot of white militia groups that you see out there, there's a lot of them too. I mean, there's Blackwater, or they were called Blackwater. I believe they're called Academy now. They were down there when Hurricane Katrina popped off and they blew up the levees and flooded New Orleans, killing more of our people. After the flood initially took place, you seen members of what was then called Blackwater Ops out there on the ground that were supposed to be their security contractors assisting the National Guard and the military. They took that advantage to start offing and slaying and killing and torturing and battering Black people. You know what I'm saying? So you got a lot of the militias, the 3 percenters. A lot of them are known above ground and underground, unknown. But nonetheless, you have a lot of that. So what I'm saying all that to say is get ready to see what more civil unrest and social injustices and white resentment that you're seeing. Get ready to see responses, causes, and effects that's going to lead to the policy being enacted, that you're going to see things take shape, form, and mold in your lifetime that we've talked about for many years to come. I think us seeing what took place at the Capitol is only a template or a stage setter for that which is inevitably about to come, which is going to see an uptick in white supremacists, specifically militia action and activity. And then another point, a lot of these people were related to judges that broke into the White House again last Wednesday. I'm down here in North Carolina, and this is where Fort Bragg is, which is the biggest military base in the country, Fort Bragg. And there was supposedly some of the military personnel, a woman who was military, led some of the military personnel out there to DC. That's under investigation, along with a lot of other people who went there under the guise of being Trump supporters and just regular exercising their so-called right to assembly. You know, it wasn't a peaceful assembly, but definitely I believe there was something afoot. It was definitely had to be an inside job if it took place the way that it did, because you know that if it was us, there would have been bodies all over that lawn. They would have put DC under curfew for about 2 months, Man, listen, they would have been arresting niggas who had nothing to do with it that wasn't even there. That just lived in DC had that took place. You know what I mean? But that's what brings us to this topic, which is very pertinent to the point that you just brought up, and it's pertaining to politics, race, crime, and Black America. You know what I'm saying? Before I go into that, I also wanted to acknowledge it is today is January the what is it? The 14th, 13th.
14th.
Today's the 14th. Okay, so brother Dr. the Honorable, great Honorable Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad's birthday just took place 2 days ago, Baba. So that would have been the brother's the Honorable Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad's 73rd birthday. Tomorrow is January 15th, which will be the 92nd, would have been the 92nd birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King. They celebrate his birthday always on a Monday, you know. So I guess this is going to be on the 19th, the Monday, but his birthday is actually January 15th. He was born Michael King, and then his father, you know, changed his name and his son's name from Michael King to Martin Luther after Martin Luther from the Renaissance church in the 1500s, after he supposedly got a vision or something, changed their name to Martin Luther. Thus, they became Martin Luther King and Martin Luther King Jr. Just a little backdrop. Oh, and also Sunday would have been the 203rd birthday, the 203rd born day of the great ancestor, Frederick Douglass. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man, Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad was speaking on him briefly before I go into the subject at hand too. You know, I would like to call myself a proud ideological son and student of Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad for different reasons. You know, the post-Nation of Islam, of course, a lot of what he exhibited as far as manhood, militancy, resistance, you know, tactfulness, as an alpha man, as an alpha Black male in society who had the attention of the youth in sports and in hip hop. You know what I'm saying? I'm definitely was inspired from him at a young age, you know, and then becoming more intensely inspired and by him, his message, as I became more attentive to the things he was speaking about categorically and specifically. You know what I mean? He had a very profound, to this day, impact on my worldview and how, you know, I sought to enhance my vocabulary, broaden my scope of knowledge, and broaden my scope of understanding of myself and the world in which I live. You know what I'm saying? Also being a former member, rank and file of the new Black Panther Party, you know what I mean? That was one of the greatest moments and tenures of my life, being amongst those soldiers who were many direct students of Dr. Khalid Muhammad. So I'm a student of direct students of Dr. Khalid Muhammad. And it was just great to be trained with members who were directly trained from Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, and that I can wear that experience with me as I continue to journey in this experience called life. You know what I mean? That was just something that I just wanted to share with the people, man. Dr. Khalid Muhammad, the fruit of Dr. Khalid Muhammad produced some real soldiers. I mean, speaking of, I briefly spoke upon what took place in St. Louis. I mean, excuse me, I always get the cities messed up. St. Louis in Louisiana. New Orleans, with Hurricane Katrina back in August of 2005, when the levees were blown. It was the fruits of Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, who were the new Black Panther Party, who went out there, busloads of them, all right? And in a search and seizure effort and initiative, rescued and assisted and helped and supported and tended to many Blacks who were in dire straits, who were in need of help, medical care, so on and so forth. You know what I mean? So this is the type of fruit that Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad produced. And you know what I'm saying? I love his spirit. May his spirit forever live within us and beyond us. You know what I'm saying? For generations to come. You know? Yeah. So another thing I want to say too, an announcement for the people is, you know, get ready to see Baba and Brother Sankofa this spring up in Boston, Massachusetts. We're about to make a trip back to my hometown and touch the ground out there and interact with the people out there and bring some good information, some good teachers, and definitely some good historic landmarks that Boston is full of, Black historic landmarks. Roxbury, Dorchester is full of. We're going to get through there and bring that to the people, definitely right here on Baba TV. So definitely be on the lookout for that. So what we want to talk about today basically is crime, race, and politics in Black America. And we just want to kind of cover, you know, how did Blacks, the Black man particularly, become the epitome of crime in America? We got to ask ourselves that. How did we become the epitome of crime in America? You know, because crime isn't exclusive in our communities. It never was. Although we do see higher levels of crime, violence, homicide specifically in our communities in comparison to other communities, other poorer or other ethnic communities in America, we have to ask ourselves, sociologically speaking, why is this? Because there is a sociological science and explanation to everything upon which you see in societies that become trends. You know what I mean? So we have to ask ourselves, how did we become the epitome of crime in America? Why did we become the epitome of crime in America? You know what I mean? And first of all, looking back in retrospect, before it was us as the epitome of crime in American society, we have to look at during the times, because there was a time when in the Black communities and in Black enclaves, that crime was very little. Yes, of course, you always had your misfits. Of course, you always had your ruffians, which is a lawless person, a thugged out person, troublemaker, for those who don't know what ruffian may mean. You've always had your social misfits. But when you see them on the magnitude upon which you see them in most large American cities, and now even smaller rural areas in the outskirts of the cities, like you've never seen before, you have to ask ourselves, what are the social dynamics that are pertinent to this current epidemic or reality that we see plaguing our communities all across America, more so for over the last 40 years? You know, because there was a time during, you know, like when, especially when the white immigrants were first they were coming in, when there were waves of them during the times of before the prohibition, during the time of the fall of the stock market, prohibition, the late 1920s and 1930s. This was a time when you had Black communities up just a few generations from slavery. But even in our indigence, right, and our lack of support or assistance from the government of the United States, you know what I mean? You seen we had less crime in our communities then. Marriage was something that was a major institute in our communities in comparison to now. You know what I'm saying? Fratricidal homicide was almost unheard of in the community. Children being born out of wedlock. A lot of the social ills that you see plaguing our communities in the conditions that have become traditions upon which a lot of times we relish in our music. You know what I'm saying? We have to look at the fact that intergenerationally speaking, even just up a few generations after slavery, this was not something that was just pervasive in all Black communities. Why did this take place? How did this take place? When did this take place? What are the socio-political implications as to how this was able to take place and to become perpetuated to the point where it's spiraling out of control at the level and rate that it is now. You know what I'm saying? We have to ask ourselves that, because during the times of first of all, crime is socially engineered. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times what they would do was try to link crime and blacks, especially for certain kind of political legislature, or even when people's electoral campaigns. A lot of times what they would use, you know what I mean, for their campaign ads, but they would be major thing that they would be championing, a society that they would be fighting for would be crime, but it would be marketed to the public as if crime and blacks, because crime was a code word politically speaking. It's called whistleblowing wordplay. It's called, yeah, that's the term for it. Whistleblowing. The dog whistling, excuse me. Dog whistling, not whistleblowing, dog whistling. So basically it's like when you whistle, a dog whistle is at such as a high frequency and tone that, you know, the human ear can't pick up that sound. Only a dog can hear that frequency or vibration of sound, right? So it's the same way as if somebody was speaking to the American public as a collective, but they're using certain code words like crime, you know what I'm saying, or welfare. You know, these would be terms that when they, you know what I'm saying, when they talk about education and healthcare, they'll be talking about other segments of the community. But when they talk about crime and welfare, okay, and passing laws that you know, curb crime in certain cities where crime is disproportionately high, you know what I mean? Those would be dog whistle terms for those who are in the know for what they were really trying to say in the segment of society upon which they were talking about. They would know, because of that dog whistle terminology, that they are speaking about blacks. You know what I mean? The undesirable elements of society. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of times what they would do, yeah, especially if, let me give you first of all a little backdrop. Let me go back a little bit. In 1988, and President George, well, he was running for president. He wasn't a president yet. He was running against governor of Massachusetts, Michael Dukakis. Michael Dukakis was the governor of Massachusetts, and George Bush Sr. was running against Governor Michael Dukakis, right? This is right after the Reagan's last run in office. And one of the campaign ads that he used was against inmate in Massachusetts who was let out on a weekend pass, which was called a furlough. The inmate who was let out, his name was Willie Horton. Willie Horton became basically the scapegoat for the 1998 presidential ad campaign for the President Bush administration. And what it was Willie Horton got out on a furlough in Massachusetts from around the Boston area, and he never returned back after his weekend pass time was up. So basically they reported him as AWOL. So they couldn't find him. And allegedly he went down to Maryland, in a suburban area in Maryland, and broke into a white couple's house and tied up the white man, the white male, tortured him, battered him, and repeatedly raped his wife. Okay, he was apprehended and he was arrested, where he is serving the remainder of his life in prison now. You see what I'm saying? However, George Bush utilized that ad, you know, of the Willie Horton case, which was a horrid case, giving the brother a pass at all. It's because he was black. But I'm just saying the reason why there's multiple cases that they can use of whites who rape, who break in homes and all of that. But what they did was, you know, to stoke the racial fears, right, of certain segments in society, specific Caucasian, working class people, right, was to basically stoke fears that became the prelude to a lot of the race politics we see today. And not only that, a lot of the legislation that was passed from that point on. Case in point, the truth in sentencing laws, doing the mandatory minimum, you know what I'm saying, on sentences, when I first got locked up back in the early 90s, I got caught with a firearm and I went upstate. They gave me a 3 to 5. You know, I copped out to a 3 to 5. They was trying to smoke. Excuse me. Smoke me. You know what I mean? That's what we called it in court, basically. You know what I mean? Massachusetts courts was no joke. Shit was like Massa-Zippy. Instead of Massachusetts courts, it was like Massa-Zippy courts. You know what I'm saying? And at that time, the governor, his name was Governor Bill Weld. And they had the truth in sentencing laws. This was a little bit before. This goes to show you, I'm dating myself a little bit because this was a little bit before the crime bill was passed in 1994. The Bill Clinton crime bill that was passed in 1994. That was written by you niggas, right-hand man, and new favorite black president, Uncle Joe Biden, who wrote the Bill Clinton crime bill. This was a little bit before that. And when I went up there, man, it was crazy because I remember just sidebar seeing how brothers was getting smoked up in there in the courts. This is like 1992. I got caught up coming from school. I had a firearm. I was in high school making bad decisions. I knew better. I had knowledge of self, very young and premature with my understanding of a lot of things then, but I knew who the enemy was. I knew what the system was designed for against us, and I knew way better than the activities I was engaging in. And I put myself in a situation whereas I had to take a fall and go and do some time. And you know, being up in the institution, Nashua Street, 200 Nashua Street, and today back and forth to court for about a year until I ended up copping out to a 3 to 5 for possession of a firearm sawed off less than 18 inches. Got caught with a whole bunch of bag full of Winchester slugs right on the subway platform downtown Boston coming from school. You know what I'm saying? I got sent up. I owned what I did. However, when I was in there, I seen a lot of people because, you know, people get to talking to you about their cases, showing you their paperwork in their cases and what's going on with their case. Everybody want to talk to you about their case when they get a little comfortable with you in jail. You know what I'm saying? To get you your opinion on, you know, what they're looking at or how, as if you're a jailhouse lawyer. It seemed like a lot of people do that. Nonetheless, when it was time for trial, it was just crazy seeing how a lot of the brothers who was going out there before the judge, I was shook, not of doing time, but of the time that I was facing. Like, you know, I'm in the county. You know, trying to see, you know, I already knew I was going to beat the Kennedy. I caught red-handed with a hammer. I just wanted to see if I can get the lowest amount of time possible without going to trial and them giving me the maximum penalty, you know? And so I copped out. But when I was going there was a lot of people going to trial. I mean, young brothers who supposedly from paperwork they were showing me didn't get caught with no gun on them, no drugs on them, and was still going out there getting smoked. I'm talking about getting crazy sentences with no weapons, sometimes supposedly shooting people with no victims, like crazy stuff. And it was just crazy because I was like, you know, of course, then I know the system's rigged against us. I didn't know the details. I didn't know nothing about truth in sentencing. This is before the crime bill. I really didn't understand the magnitude of Reaganomics and the social design and layers at that time, young in my small, premature understanding that I had in consciousness, didn't really understand the magnitude of what I was in. What we were in is this young men who were in these streets caught up into a lot of activities that we chose, yeah, but that was designed and put there for us to be pitfalls that we found ourselves falling into. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Being able to witness and experience that firsthand damn near 30 years ago when I went up there, because I did my time. I got out, caught another charge, had went back up, you know what I'm saying? But I started to see like, wow, they are smoking us here. White boys getting caught with dope right in poor South Boston, which is the white section of Boston, but is not the suburbs. It was the white slums. A lot of poor and disenfranchisement, poverty, crime, and even gangbanging and drug usage heavily goes on in the white part of South Boston. You will see white boys coming in there, you know what I'm saying, only because, you know, when you're in that bullpen going out to the judge, waiting for your verdict or waiting for see what's going to happen with the outcome of your trial on trial day, on judgment day, you're seeing white boys coming back with crazy. A lot of people like to get in there and talk about their charges. You see them in the cut in the corner talking about their charges. They got caught with a bundle of dope and a needle, you know what I'm saying? And seeing them get out on probation. You seeing the brothers getting caught with just a bag of dope because there was maybe a first time subsequent offender prior to that, and just get caught with a bag of dope. Now they going up to South Bay, which is another prison, county jail up in Roxbury section of Boston, right, on the borderline of downtown. You know what I'm saying? Doing like 2.5 years just for like hardly any evidence. Now, I ain't gonna front. Some brothers was putting themselves in predicaments to get caught up, but we're talking about overall, just how a lot of us have become the face of crime. And not only that, a lot of draconian practices in law and in sentences was purposely geared towards us to swell the prison population, because that is a major industry in America. And again, you were not brought here to be equal to the white man. You were not brought here to dominate society, to rule in banking, to control media, okay, to dominate the different facets of society as it pertains to social control and control of the distribution of goods and services. They didn't bring you here for that, okay? They brought you here to profit off of you. Yes, and even though we are 13th Amendment citizens here, yes, we were set free from slavery, but we weren't made free. We were set free. It's a difference. But we weren't made free. Being set free means, okay, legislation, laws, a federal law was passed that liberated certain territories, because there were a lot of places that were already liberated before the Emancipation Proclamation, pseudo-liberated. You didn't have equality. You just were no longer in the status of chattel slavery. But you didn't have equality. The same, and you wasn't respected in society and didn't have protection or the same distribution of goods, services, or protection in society as did whites. Many of them who came here who were poor, disenfranchised, illiterate, you know what I'm saying? But they were considered on the bottom echelons of society, but still above you. They were considered to be and regarded as Europeans of a lower pedigree than other Europeans, i.e. the Irish, the Italian, the Jewish people, the Polish, different people who came here of European stock were considered a lower echelon on the social ladder here in America, but the white blacks weren't even considered human. So even at a time when we weren't considered human, and we were considered to be prone to crime more, to be lazy, to be thieves, to be vagabonds and engage in social mischief. The white immigrants that were coming here during the times of the prohibition, the stock market crash in the 1930s and 20s, they were engaging in all kinds of criminal enterprises and activities. Yeah, because during the time of the prohibition and during the time of the fall of the stock market, indigence was rampant. Us at the bottom echelons and the most undesirable element and segment of society, of course, we dealt with and got dealt the hardest blow, socially, politically, economically speaking. But even at that time, the 1930s and 40s, we weren't slaughtering, we wasn't blowing each other's brains off like that. Wasn't even guns in the community as much like that. Yeah, you had dope and stuff here and there, people was on it, but it wasn't something that was a regular fixture in the community at every goddamn corner store or bodega or alleyway or boulevard like you see today. Nowhere near it. So we have to ask ourselves, what took place where at times where we were worse socially, politically, had a lot less as a group, as a people, right? And we are so prone to crime the way we're promoted in society via television, all right, and other streams, you know what I'm saying? We have to ask ourselves, how did this happen? When did this happen? And why did this happen? Why does it perpetuate? How do we overcome that? And what we do is something that we got to talk about, which would be another topic. You know what I'm saying? But sticking with the meat and potatoes of the problem, you got to ask ourselves, the white immigrants came in. We know that indigence breeds a need for survival. And in your need for survival, the first law of nature being self-preservation, people will resort to illicit activities to do what they need to do to provide food, and even just more than that. Some people just wanted more than the bare basic minimums. Some people wanted that fast life and a life of lavishness because they felt they owned that, and they had the wherewithal and the oomph in them, and the audacity and the braveness and the mindset to do that. So thus you had a lot of criminal enterprises that came about then, and they were white folks. These were white people back then. And a lot of the ghettos, like in Brooklyn and in Harlem and in the Bronx, certain parts of Boston that are black enclaves now, and Baltimore, Maryland, and New Orleans, Eva. Yeah, those were Italian criminals, gangsters, mafioso, movies that Hollywood images and concepts and ideas of things and people and that took place in history that are promoted and romanticized and glorified as gangsters because they reflect a time of crime in America where these people were in the ghettos. These people were poor and disenfranchised. The Irish, the Italian, the Jewish, many other immigrant populations. Not to say that there were no hardworking people who came here and rolled up their sleeves and stayed away from illicit activities and just looked for a better life for their family. Yeah, that took place. But however, crime as you see it, show you that crime is socially engineered and it is not racially embedded in one's DNA. You know what I'm saying? It could be psychologically imbued into people through social engineering. And this is what you see in our communities now. 40 years plus intergenerational perpetuation of that with certain social engineering strategies that were put into effect to facilitate this reality in which we see now that is destructive. Yes, but there was a time prior to that. Even when you look at some of the statistics, you can go on Google or look at or any information search engine and look at what the crime rate statistically looked like in the 1940s, the 1930s, and among you know what I'm saying, European immigrants. And you'll see that blacks, with all the poverty that we were dealing with, all the discrimination that we were dealing with and that we were up against, you know what I'm saying, that we had a very low crime rate amongst us in comparison to Caucasians who were killing each other, engaging in prostitution, a lot of their women, high illiteracy rate, high venereal disease rate. In fact, yes, the Irish, who became many American police officers were of Irish descent, especially back then. You still see that now in many cities, but even though it's a lot more diverse than it was, there was a time where it was predominantly Irish people. But even prior to them dominating the police forces in America, you had a lot of them dominating in crime and illicit activity, especially in New York City. That's like what the movie Gangs in New York was depicting, when it was depicting a lot of the you know, how the British and the Irish, they didn't get along. They was at odds with each other. They really didn't like each other. They were, you know what I'm saying? They was like considered a lower class or a lower pedigree. It wasn't even considered white. They weren't even considered white at one point, Irish people. White was a social political status given to Englishmen of British stock and that were of Protestant religious belief. You know what I'm saying? Initially, that's what the term white from the Whigs and the Whigamore Party established the term white for that socio-political meaning and status was pertaining to those segments of Europeans, not Irish. That was something that came later down the line that we can cover, but another time. So, but they were called Paddy. Paddy was a derogatory term given towards Irish people. You know what I'm saying? It was like, you know what I'm saying? Like a negative epithet given to certain segments of the Irish community that were engaged in crime and illicit activity. All right. And to the point where they were engaging in so much reveling from drinking and rioting in the streets and gang banging. There was gang first, especially in New York City, in Harlem. In Harlem. This is a fact. You know what I mean? That the term for paddy wagon was modeled after all the Irish people who used to have to come out on certain nights, especially on a steamy summer weekend, and lock up all the time because of all the chaos and mayhem and violence that they were stirring up in the communities. That's to have the term paddy wagon came from. This is a fact. You know what I'm saying? You had the Irish people I mean, the Italians who were who a lot of us watch movies like Al Capone, Lucky Luciano, and we know the names of all the greats, and they're glorified when they came here as poor immigrants who were engaging in criminal activity and killing. They never called it Italian on Italian crime. They never called it white on white crime. They never called it Irish on Irish crime. You know what I'm saying? But that's who they were doing. When they were extorting people, they were extorting people in their own community. When they was killing and kidnapping and doing whatever they had to do to get a point across, that was to their own people. You see what I'm saying? So they never called that white on white crime. You know what I'm saying? They never called it fratricidal homicide, but it definitely was what it was. And then as we look up and fast forward to the future, when did we see crime start to become so pervasive and prevalent in the Black community? You know what I'm saying? We started to see that take place more so in the late 60s. And then we have to ask ourselves, what took place in the late 60s, or what was taking place in the late 60s to make this social phenomenon reality and be what it was? I don't know if you can see this. Let me see something. I should have had it. It ain't a PowerPoint, but it's like right here. Just if you could see right here, it said, okay, let me see.
Yeah, we can see it, Sankofa.
Yeah. Okay. It says behind bars in America, inmate populations, 1930. I don't know if I can get it clear. I'm trying to get it clear on the screen. It's possible. It's possible. Let me see. Yeah. 1930s, right? White, Black, and other. In 1930, 76.7% of the population in prison were Caucasians. 1930s, right? During the times of the Prohibition and all that. Okay. 1950, 69.1% Caucasian, Black, 29.7% inmate population, right? Other, 1.2%. Okay, 1970, we're starting to see the numbers shift a little here. And it might be a little blurry, people, but just bear with me. That's why a PowerPoint would have been better, but I didn't have enough information or slides to put up just for that. I just want to show you this real quick. So just bear with me right quick. 1970, white, inmate, behind bars, inmate population. White, 60.5%. Black, 38.8%. Others, 3.7%, right? 1986, right? Now, this is when crack hit. What's significance of 1986? Really from the late 60s to early 70s, when Richard Nixon declared a war on drugs, it seemed like that's when drugs popped up. The influx of heroin, which was in the community before, but never on the same level and magnitude in which we've seen it, to after a war was declared on drugs by then President Richard Nixon, did you see drugs, the influx of drugs in our communities the way that it was. So therefore, there is that dog whistle language and jargon again, where they're speaking in codes. A war on drugs really meant a war on you know who. That's right, Black man, me and you. And then with the blaxploitation films of the 1970s, which is tried to glamorize and glorify, illicit activity amongst Black pimping, prostitution, macking, all of that kind of stuff. Movies that I actually liked and enjoyed to watch too, especially, back in the days because of the vintage to it. But sidebar. Now, 1986, crack had hit the scene in the 80s, early 80s. People was on freebase. Started to add the cut to it, making it crack. It ravished the communities. It popped up out of nowhere in 1986. 39.6% of the inmate population behind bars were white. The numbers dropped. What took place, socially speaking? Black, 45.3% of the prison populations. Others, 15.1%. We got to look at the significance, which we'll cover, of what took place at that time. It says in 1986, the most recent figures, Hispanic inmates were removed from the white and Black groupings and were listed as the others. Okay, so yeah, it says right here, accurate explanation is that over the last half centuries, most white Americans have moved upward on the social scale, so that fewer of them remain amongst the class of people who tend to receive prison terms. In the United States and elsewhere, People who are poor and have sporadic employment end up filling most of the cells. Most most of this group used to be white. Again, most of this group used to be white. Now the largest numbers are black. Now you got to also look what happened too. In 1932 to 1964, through an act of Congress, over 130 billion. That's right, billion, $130 billion were granted to Caucasian immigrants who came here to build up the new social phenomena of what was being built, known as the suburbs, the suburban areas. Okay, so a lot of them got that money and was able to develop their communities in the suburbs and get loans and pay the loans, and the taxes go to facilitate better schools and parks and streets, because that's what the taxes that you pay on the homes in the suburban communities do. They go to facilitate the improvement and the embedment and the expansion of your community as a whole. You know what I mean? So they was able to mechanize off of this, and they was able to, and in doing so, by creating the redlining, this is what took place along with that. So on the flip side of the coin, this is how race, crime, politics, and the social disparities and the numbers in which you see take place of why blacks are the epitome of the face on crime, opposed to who they traditionally and historically used to be. That we want to know how this took place. Is there something in your DNA that just makes you genetically prone to crime, like some racial scientific theories would suggest? Or is it socially engineered? And if it is, these are the dynamics that we need to consider, because a lot of miseducation campaigns, as far as it pertains to science and black criminality, is definitely out there. You know what I'm saying? The bell curve theory. You see what I'm saying? And other kind of different scientific pseudo scientific theories that are out there and that are being considered by many who take position as judges, who become people that you don't know, that are involved with Congress, legislation, and different executive branches of government. And a lot of the people harbor these social scientific views and pseudo social scientific views as it pertains to and relates to us. And a lot of the things in which you see that take place behind the scene, right, that you see pertinent in your face, has a lot to do with many different social underlying social factors that a lot of us don't consider and definitely need to. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, crime is socially engineered. I mean, crack didn't just pop up in our communities in the 1980s from the east to the west coast out of nowhere. You know what I'm saying? We even had in 1997, where the Congressional Black Caucus had the CIA on the hot seat, a member of the CIA who admitted to the Congressional Black Caucus, Maxine Waters, in 1997, that they were behind the influx of crack cocaine in Black American cities in the 80s. They admitted this. You know what I'm saying? So of all the families that were destroyed, of all the bones that are in the ground because of the fratricidal homicide, the uptick that took place over gang territory and drug turf battles and wars, you know what I'm saying, that left a community scarred, generations of beef that persisted and carried on after the fact due to what was sparked from back then. Only thing they did was admit it. There was no reparation or nothing given towards the community that would help us heal politically, economically, otherwise, and to rebuild from that. You see what I'm saying? Our communities have always had its battles, socially, politically, economically speaking, in this system. And it seems like in different generations, we dealt with different battles. You see what I'm saying? One of the battles we were dealing with in the 60s, you know what I'm saying, with civil rights and equality, you know what I'm saying? That was a battle that many of us stood up on the front line, where you've seen a lot of radical, young, intelligent, articulate, Black, beautiful sisters and brothers who were on the front lines, whether they were Christian. You had SNCC, you know what I'm saying? Southern Christian Leadership Coalition, the SCLC, you know what I mean? You had CORE, you had the Urban League, you had, whether we agree with their methodology or certain different dynamics of different personalities who were the leaders at that time is a whole nother topic. The fact of the matter is there was a time when Black people were rising up, standing up, and organizing. And they were galvanizing the attention of not just other Blacks on the college campus, but also in the streets. You know what I'm saying? And not only that, they were getting the attention because television and media was new, and these images were being, you know what I'm saying, permeated outside of just the inner city to around the world. People were seeing it, and people were being inspired by the initiative that many young Blacks were doing, standing up, rising up, and mobilizing, organizing after being galvanized for what they were seeing in this time. This is a time when whites still had a higher crime rate than us, by the way. You know what I'm saying? This is a time where we battled police brutality at that time, poverty at that time, discrimination in housing, in schools, all right? And so on and so forth. But it wasn't until they put the drugs in the community, declared a war on us, already an undesirable element of the community, already a community that they seen who had our battles and our shares of challenges as a collective here in America, right? As foundational Black Americans, but always bounce back, always stand up, always persevere. So they try to strike us a real serious blow this time. What do you do with a class of people that are 13th Amendment, therefore citizens, that were always unwanted eaters here, that we, after we no longer needed them? What do you do with the people that you can't deport? You systematically and strategically eliminate them, medicate them, criminalize them, homosexualize them, depopulate them, don't give them equality, raise their women up over them. You'll cause implosions and dissension and destruction internally, and we'll pull the strings and pick up the pieces externally in the form of imprisonment or other ways in which we can assist and profit financially off of the depopulation of undesirable elements in the community. So a lot of laws that were passed and a lot of things that you've seen in legislature was geared specifically towards bringing that which I just put into perspective, into fruition. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, they admitted that they put the crack on the streets. You know what I mean? And a lot of the shit came from right from Nicaragua and different places, Panama and all that in the early 80s. Landed right from the Alapango Air Force Base and was landing pounds and tons of crack cocaine right here. Rick Ross, not the rapper Rick Ross, but Rick Ross, the original hustler. If you read Don Diva magazines or be keeping up, you know what I'm saying, with the latest news or Feds magazine or just having your ears to the streets, for those who know, you know, for those who don't know, check it out. He was one of the first ones who, or the first one who, of course, through the CIA, had to connect, approach him, and get the crack on the streets in LA. Of course, they were sitting back taking notes, seeing how this will affect the community. How will it affect them as far as crime? How will it affect, you know, there was already murders and gangbanging in LA, right? But how it will cause an uptick in that. How we can profit off of this through their incarceration. $35,000 a year per inmate, that's making money. So there's a lot of things to be gained off of our incarceration. Sidebar, when you're in prison, you generate a lot of money. You were brought here to profit, to be profited from, not to be given equality. Even though that's what we fight and we strive for, is equality. We wasn't given. That's why it's a continuous uphill battle. That's for a reason. When you go to prison and you're incarcerated, you provide jobs or you keep jobs for not only judges or the bailiff or the bail bondsmen or the correction officers, the COs, right? You also provide employment for contractors like electricians, steel and locksmith companies, telephone companies. That's how you communicate with your people. That's big money. Canteen companies. Bob Barker from The Price is Right even has his hand in that, making a lot of money off of the clothes that a lot of people there wear. You see what I'm saying? So there's so much money that profit off of you or off of legislation passing laws, that draconian type of laws that incarcerate you, right, significantly and disproportionately more than other poor segment, other ethnic elements in American society. When you do this, it benefits them because it gets you off the street as an undesirable, unwanted eater, and it also allows the state to benefit off of you being incarcerated on many ways, because you provide money and income, just you being in there on so many different levels, let alone $35,000 a year the state gets just to house you. That's why so much money has been invested into privatized industrial prisons. Privatizing industrial prisons. There's a lot of judges who had their hands in on that. And you can look up something that took place in the early 1990s. It was called the infamous meeting. The infamous meeting. The reason why it was called infamous, because it was a meeting that took place between record execs, judges, and other people who had a vested interest in private prisons. And the music back then was a mixture. You had your b-boy rap, you had your gangster music, a little bit of the Ghetto Boys, NWA, and all that. But it was a mixture. It was balanced. You had your b-boy rap, you had your party rap. Hip hop has always been one of the most diverse genres of music, right? But the reason why you seeing it become more one-dimensional, and when I say one-dimensional, one-dimensionally materialistic, glorifying violence, materialism, and fratricidal homicide, right? The reason why you seen it wasn't just a natural course that just took place on its own because it just evolved that way naturally. No, there were people in positions of power. There were people in authority. There are people with blueprints and machinations or agendas who made this reality coming into fruition the way that it is right now. That's how that happened. Not because it just on its own naturally course, because times have changed and the music have changed and this is just what it is now. No, that's not what happened. That's what it's been made for your black ass to see it as. Because one thing they always did was play a game on us and our minds, you know what I'm saying, and keep us always out the know and ass backwards and confused and lost and turned out. You see what I'm saying? And profited off of and came up on. They've always done that. But that didn't happen because it's just a natural course of things. This took place through strategic blueprinting and strategy. So what they sought to do was to perpetuate more of the negative gangster rap. Not to say I don't listen to none of it. And I don't like some of the bars and the beats because they be hot. That's aside from the agenda that other people got to use or to weaponize our music and our creativity, when a lot of blacks couldn't get employment where they were going to be making that much money and seeing that many figures legit in the community. You know what I'm saying? Hip hop was a way out for many of us. But not only that, hip hop had a lot of consciousness in the rap music. Hip hop was talking about the conditions and the social ills, but putting it in perspective from a b-boy outlook with some social responsibility. And it was always a gem or a point to ponder in a lot of the messages, even from the hardcore street rappers at a time. And the reason why it became opposite of that, mostly because there's a lot of other rappers out there, but you stop hearing your Queen Latifahs and your Lakim Shabazz and your Public Enemies, you know what I'm saying? And your Poor Righteous Teachers and your Brand Nubians and your conscious rappers who was making dope music, who was moving units, and who was impacting the streets, the hood. The gangsters were still even listening to that. But what happened after that to in 1993, 94? That was kind of unheard. That old conscious stuff was just played out. Did it just play out because the times just changed? No, it played out because there were judges and other people, record execs, who had their hand in on that because they sought to benefit off of your incarceration and criminalizing you. And this was right around the time, a little bit after 1988, which, to tie it all in, George Bush's crime ad with Willie Horton and the threat of black men running around raping white people, this will be your reality if you elect Michael Dukakis, who was the governor of the state that furloughed Willie Horton. The dog whistle strategy and wordplay again. So you know what I'm saying? By that time, and using a lot of legislation, a lot of people who are running for governor, mayor, office, judge, DA, a lot of were using race-based politics in campaigns that demonize and criminalize blacks. Legislation was passed, you know what I'm saying? Do a lot more updated for that time. Legislation was passed due to that reality. And because of that being the case, record execs and judges and other people seeing this is a good time that we can profit off of criminalizing blacks. So much legislation has been passed to incarcerate them. Private industrial prisons are up and coming now. They're being built up and they're expanding at an accelerated rate and very vast. This is a time we can capitalize off of black creativity, but the more debased or self-destructive and materially rooted expression of their creativity is what we're going to perpetuate, because it is going to inspire and galvanize the youth to want to take place, because music is powerful. These people dealing with social engineering. They're not just dealing with capitalism and money. These people in high places and principalities in these high places and positions of power are very wise men and know exactly what they're doing and know the impact of music and know that the sound, the rhythm, the beat, and the perpetuation and the consistency of hearing the music is not just hearing music. It is casting spells at another point. People are going to respond to, because they're going to have a mental imbuing of the sound or the message that is constantly being perpetuated and reverberated through the waves into their mind, and they're going to have it. It's going to have an impact on them. You know what I'm saying? And I can speak from my own experience, because I loved NWA. I used to hear that and get amped. Made you just want to drink a 40 ounce and get a blunt and hope a nigga just look at you wrong. So you can, you know what I'm saying? So you can bring some of that hardcore rap that you was listening to life. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, we have our accountability as a community. We definitely have to address another topic, but it's definitely a critical and necessary one that we will and must definitely cover. But however, I wanted to specifically and categorically deal with the external dynamics, you know what I'm saying, as to what we're seeing and as it pertains to crime, politics, and race and black people in America. You know what I'm saying? And we see a further continuance. It's like, you know, the seed has been planted. You see what I'm saying? They've been planting the seed back then with the negative music in the 90s. Like from 93 on, it's been more so. I mean, you had your Wu-Tang, and you had people that brought, you know what I'm saying? You had, you know, different diversity. It wasn't just straight hardcore nigga value music with some dope ass beats. You know what I'm saying? You had like different rappers, but you started to see the conscious stuff fizzle away. And the more ratchet the women are, right? Even though they make dope beats, because our people are creative. It's just our creativity is being weaponized against us for the most part. And we don't control a lot of these companies, you know what I'm saying? We're just slaves to them, you know what I'm saying, in these boardrooms, you know what I'm saying? They be going to boardroom as the asses face at the table at a boardroom meeting with their heads. We're their asses at the table and they're their heads a lot of times. You know what I'm saying? And for that money, a lot of us are willing to talk about real realities, of course, that were socially engineered intergenerationally in our community for that money. You know what I'm saying? Many of whom aren't living that lifestyle anymore. I mean, you might see that now amongst a lot of the youth, because this keeping it real stuff has a lot to do with the perpetuation of the music and the influx on the level that you've seen it perpetuated in from the early 90s to the mid 90s up to now. There was a time, man, when I was young, Baba, back in the day, when, I mean, the only rapper who got killed was like Scott LaRock, like 1988, 87. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And that was major. Scott LaRock had it all. He was a super hoe. You know what I'm saying? That was major, from the BDP posse, Millbrook Projects in the Bronx, you know, Scott LaRock. That was ill. And then, you know, in the 90s came Biggie and Pac. That was major. You know what I'm saying? Because Those were two different icons. And, you know, it sparked a lot of sentiment, you know, between different coasts, and it sparked a lot of the conversations from everywhere to the college campus, to the barbershop, to the block. People were talking about that. That was crazy. Now it's to the point where, damn, every week our youth is dropping out here. I mean, we got more rappers that died in 2020 and 2019, man. And I don't know what. Very talented, creative, aspiring young black men, man, that we're so caught up in this manufactured nigga mentality. It is what it is. In 1991, we already, like I said, had our challenges and our issues in the community. But once it became weaponized against us and marketed, it's been marketed, you know what I mean? And therefore glamorized and therefore glorified by many others who don't have a voice in society without the use of have been ousted by society, have not, you know what I'm saying, been accepted in many of the institutions in society like other ethnic groups or other people have. A lot of times people want to wear that realness or that untouchable nigga, that thoroughness on their sleeve as a badge of honor. You know what I'm saying? Because that's a lot of times, that's all a lot of us have, is our reputation. And respect means everything. And the type of respect that we want to have in a community because of the environments that we're in is the result of what you see a lot of the music reflecting, and a lot of the causes and effects that you see as a result of that in a form of violence, where we're offing each other and other people are profiting from it. And we're not, you know what I'm saying? The detriment is just continuously plaguing us, becoming an epidemic to us, and is resulting more and more of us becoming depleted and depopulated as an already minority group in a country where you're not wanted and hated at. You see what I'm saying? So there's a lot we got to do. It is a lot. Shout out to a lot of, because, you know, like I said, this isn't to be a boogeyman type thing and talk about everything that's wrong, because everything's not wrong. And there's a lot of people out there doing very well and doing very good. There was one brother, he was a former Crip, I believe, in St. Louis, Missouri, and he was just awarded Teacher of the Year last year, ended last year, 2020. I forget the brother's name. Google him and look him up. I forget the brother's name off the top of the head. So you have a lot of people who are doing good. Tukey Williams changed his life. He started the gangs, but he also, with the Crips, one of the founding members, but he also wanted to strive to make changes that can have a positive impact on the youth. And they got him up out of here because they didn't want that. You know what I'm saying? They want to villainize you and kill you and incarcerate you and hope you destroy yourself so they can profit off of it. You know what I'm saying? They're saying a conspiracy theory. This is reality, unless you've been living under a rock and you're from Coonville. You know what I'm saying? Where y'all don't see a reality in 3D. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, and on that note too, I had a privilege of meeting Tukey Williams Jr. one time in New Jersey, Trenton. You know, when I was in the new Black Panther Party, we did a lot of organizing on the ground with the youth. So we had the summer tour of unity. Shout out to Brother Divine Allah. You know what I'm saying? He was the chairman of the new Black Panther Party in New Jersey at the time. Shout out to Queen Sheena, Sister Maati, and the different beautiful brothers and sisters that I soldiered with when I was out through that way. You know, so we had the Summer of Unity in 2006, where we would have a unity initiative cookouts and block parties for the Bloods and the Crips. You know what I'm saying? I had the privilege and benefit of meeting and chopping it up briefly with the brother Tukey Williams Jr. You know what I'm saying? When we was doing the summer tour, yeah, we had to write the you know, the letter for the license, you know what I'm saying, to get approved for the license to then mayor of Trenton, New Jersey, Doug Palmer. And it was dope. You know what I'm saying? We had it a couple of years in a row. Tragedy, unfortunately, took place a few years down the line from that, and it got stopped. But we did a lot of things. It was bringing Bloods and Crips together and all that. You know, the cops was watching, boy. It was on us. You know, and the brothers out there just gangbanging. The cops wasn't just on them, but when you had the Panthers out there trying to unify the brothers and, you know, bring some peace to the community and some awareness, right? They was on us then, you know what I mean? Because somebody is against your collective improvement and empowerment and growth as a people. And because we don't know that, the enemy and the opposition knows our power and our ability and our capability a lot of times better than we can even imagine ourselves or than we really give enough consideration to. You know what I'm saying? Had we knew what we could do as a collective, not as an individual, as a group, or as a block, or as just my organization, but as a organization of organizations with a principled blueprint and plan of action, we could overcome and transcend a lot of the social ills that we have been facing intergenerationally, and that I would put any amount of money on, you know what I'm saying, that you're gonna see an uptick in, even with Joe Biden in office, especially with Joe Biden in office. One thing I say about Trump, and they didn't like Trump because Trump was audacious and he was blatant. He didn't pull no punches and he was in your face. He unmasked what America really is. You know what I'm saying? We already know America's racist, but he unmasked it and let you know what it really was and made it comfortable for them to take their mask off and come out and publicly let you know what it was. And when that was happening, you had more Black people organizing, galvanizing. And I hope this doesn't stop buying more firearms, joining more gun clubs, you know what I'm saying? Becoming more gun conscious and aware of their surroundings, because you know this is and this is reality. Now some people have been comfortable and are going to start to go back to sleep because the alarm's on snooze for some of these Negroes, and they still don't get it. And it is what it is with them. You know what I mean? But as for me, people like Baba, and for many young and up and coming brothers and sisters who are ripe for revolution, who is waking up and seeing things for what it really is, and who want to make changes, and who is gangster about revolution, meaning gangster about complete and constructive change and advancement. We have a lot of that coming out now. So that's what our focus ought to be on. A lot of brothers and sisters is changing their life from the street element and investing from being a hustler. So many ways to be a hustler. This is with the advent of the technology that we have today, man, brothers and sisters, and many of you already know that and are already endeavoring in on that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, people are investing in all kinds, from Bitcoin to real estate to Amazon to many of the tech companies. You know what I'm saying? Because this is where the future is headed, and you can make a lot of money. I mean, just with the advent of this computer and YouTube, social media, you can so many ways that you can get to people and supply a demand for the people, even if it's in the form of teaching or inspiration or cooking techniques, healthy cooking techniques. You know what I'm saying? Outreach to the youth. Some people, these young brothers and sisters out there, just need to hear a positive person or brother or sister who come from that element, who've been through some trauma, or who've overcame some things and have a success story to give to them, so they can see the potential. They can see light at the end of the tunnel. They can see a bigger and better person that they can be. They can see themselves outside of the negative mindset or the negative circumstances that they are currently in. You know what I'm saying? So we don't always want to just give heed to and focus on the negative, and the negative is real. It is tangible. It is here. It is in your face, and it's not going to just go away because we ignore it. Yes, but we don't want to just only give heed to that. We want to look at things in a multifaceted type of way and consider the pros and the cons as we organize, plot, plan, and strategize for what we ought to do and how and why in real time. We have to consider the good, the bad, and the ugly. Thus, I wanted to talk about briefly on today's subject, which I had so much I can go into, Baba. When we're talking about a subject such as this, it is very vast, it is very tiered, it is a very layered type of dialogue. Oh man, I might even have to put some slides together and really do a presentation, because I had so much stuff that I want to touch on pertaining to this subject that is hard to just in a form of a dialogue or a monologue from Brother Sankofa to the people. But this is going to be a segment. I want this to be a segment, Baba. So when we come on next time, it's not going to just be me giving a monologue. And I'm sure that people can appreciate what I'm bringing, hopefully, to you as far as information that is pertinent to the subject. But I also would like to bring up some statistics that they can see, some visuals, some imagery, so that people can walk with me and I can walk them through it in another way. There's many different ways to teach, visually and auditorily. Auditory is dope, but I wanted to do it auditorily and visually next time when we deal with this subject matter. I'm also going to be doing things as far as, because I've been stepping it up with my workout. I'm not playing, people. Yes. You haven't been seeing me like that, but when you see me doing my thing, as I put my own YouTube channel up, and it's going to be dealing with fitness, health, and different workout techniques. The health epidemic is one of the biggest crises in our communities. We have some of the worst health care and the worst health conditions in our communities. So one of the most revolutionary things a person can do is deal with something that is hands-on. What are you doing for the people? Well, how can I reach the people at once? Social media, advent of technology, we could utilize this, like the point I was making a few minutes ago, that I'm going to continue to expound on. So I'm going to endeavor in a contribution that can give health tips to people who want to get fit, who are dealing with ailments. And being fit is an amazing and powerful and beautiful thing. You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, that is one of the most revolutionary things you can do, because that is one of the greatest detriments in our community, health. We have a bad health epidemic in the community. So one of the most revolutionary things you can do is deal with things that deal with stuff that is tangible that can help the people in real time. So you're going to be seeing Brother Sankofa with my fitness channel and giving you tips, not just for workout, but for how the body works, the anatomy works. There's not a one-size-fits-all type of workout for everybody. So I'm going to be dealing with a lot of different things that can be utilized for a lot of different people, whether they're beginning, they're intermediate, or they're trying to become advanced. So also be on the lookout for that too. And in closing, you know what I'm saying? I want to say there's a real good book that the people should check out, especially young brothers and sisters out there who may be checking this out, who is in the streets, or if you're not that young no more, but you were in the streets, and you know, you're just trying to look for some legitimate type of hustle, because we got that hustle spirit in the hood. You know what I'm saying? We like to know how to finesse and maneuver in different ways to make money. We like the challenge of having to go against the grain to make a couple of dollars. You know what I'm saying? And use our, you know what I'm saying, greater capabilities, you know what I'm saying, and ingenuities to, you know what I'm saying, generate some revenue. That's what we like to do. There's a book that will assist many in that called How to Hustle and Win. How to Hustle and Win. It's a powerful book. The author is a brother by the name of Supreme Understanding Allah. Supreme Understanding Allah from the nations of God and earth. But this book isn't a book just for the nations of God and earth, and that's why I like that. He steps out of the paradigm of those teachings. You know what I'm saying? Not that I don't appreciate those teachings, by the way. I do. However, he steps outside, so it makes it more of a universal type of book. And it's called How to Hustle and Win, a survival strategy guide for the hood. A survival strategy guide for the hood. And it has so many different ways that you can, ideas that you can use. The book's a little old, maybe a little over a decade old. Strategies that you can use or that you can add on, or it might spark a light to go off in your mind. You may come up with something based on the templates you see in that book. And he covers so much from so many different dynamics and so many different elements in the hood. The book is like this thick. Nice thick book, and it covers a lot of ground. And this is a book that I say is definitely required reading for many, because it deals with the problems, it examines the problems, it dissects the problems, but it also, most importantly, gives you a blueprint for success and how to overcome the problems that we are inevitably facing as a people. And that's what is important, and that's what's revolution, okay? Solution orientation. Don't just, a revolutionary now must be a resolutionary. You must have some resolutions to deal with the problems that are many-fold and multi-layered in order to be a real revolutionary. Another good book is Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice. Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice, by Dennis Kimbrough, I believe. I forget, I haven't read that book in a couple of years. But I'm about to blow the dust off of that and get back into that again myself. So we deal with a lot of problems, but for every problem that there is on the planet that exists, there is a corresponding solution. You know what I'm saying? So we must be solution driven, but we must also understand what the problem and the problems are that we are facing in real time in order to strategize a solution that will begin to chip away at the multi-leveled and multi-tiered problems that we have. You know what I'm saying? There's no one-size-fits-all answer, and our problems are vast and multiplicated. So we need a lot of vast, multiplicated strategies, counter strategies, game plans, teachers from different disciplines, and revolutionaries from different levels and thought processes and schools of thought. You know what I'm saying? Kind of all on deck. You know what I'm saying? If for those who are interested, because one of the hardest things to do is to get Black people to galvanize and unify around things that benefit the collective without some niggas getting some money or some kind of grandizement out of it. You know what I'm saying? But this is what we must do, and the times are gonna keep letting us know that the pressure is gonna be on us more and more. The enemy is not playing. He is not gonna relent. So now we're in a position that if you're a real nigga, what you gonna do? For my G's out there. You know what I mean? When I say the term real nigga, I'm being euphemistic. If you a G and you real and you stand up, and that's what we are, we have thick skin because of the communities that we came from, produce those kind of traits in us. Now shit is real in the field on many levels. The white militias ain't playing, the cops ain't playing, white supremacy has a new attitude, an uptick, it's bold, it's whiter, it's stronger, and it's in your face like never before. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, this isn't a boogeyman tactic. This is a strategy and real talk that we need to really look in the mirror and consider and ask ourselves, what are we gonna do? And like I said, the things that need to be done are multi-leveled and multiplicated. So you can find yourself preoccupied with solution orientation, but just get your mind in sync and in tune with that, right? I mean, we seek, we will definitely find. You know what I'm saying? But I want to kind of close out on this segment, Baba. I definitely would like to come back and talk about race, crime, and Black America with a little bit more of some presentation for the people, so I can walk them through some statistical data and give them some imagery, like I was saying. But until that time, it's been an honor and a privilege to definitely be before the lens of Baba TV, which is fire every time, and to chop it up with the fam. I love y'all, and I can't wait to do it again. Peace, love, light, Black power. Stay healthy, stay woke, and always stay dangerous.
All right, brother Sankofa. I want to end it with our beloved brother Jack Kim, who made this record family for brother Sankofa. He's a phenomenal artist from Flatbush, Brooklyn. Shout out to my brother Jack Kim. He's made me several intros for my channel, and I just appreciate him and give thanks for him so much. So without further ado, here's our brother with the new song entitled Sankofa.
But it's about organizing on different levels. We have different layered and tiers of oppositions against us. This isn't boogeymanism. This is a conspiracyism. If you think so, nigga, wake your ass up. Before it's too late, it's reality.
Devil at work, but I'm in God's plan. It's revolution when it got us hold of God's hand. Cotton stocks and try to be the top brand. Brooklyn Reserve can get it off the block, man. Entrepreneur shit, about to get me more chips. Black and more, my sovereignty made me more rich. Indigenous to this whole shit, whole list. 4/5, in the name of freedom, get the whole clip. Niggas hungry, they looking for a meal. Customs coming through and they looking for a deal. You controlled by the game or toes down on your heels. You a nigga in the house or you a nigga in the field. Prison getting killed, confined to hard times, but the mind's designed to rise like it's high tide. Higher consciousness, portals like a sci-fi. High five defeating poverty on my time. Curse broken, my daughters live a good life. Now let's be a good man to a good wife. Start a good plan, get out the hood life. Families mourning cause the enemies had a good night. Good night. You ain't awoke if you don't, then Jim Crow. These times don't look alike. Come on, look at Mike. Brown, not Jackson, even though a different enemy took his life. I saw change and the shit start looking right. Remember that cellar I had was a book at night. Take me far away like I just took a flight back to reality to open my book and write. The world's going up in flames, shit burning. Politicians got some people up like a furnace. Media tell lies like they got a purpose, but the truth always makes its way to the surface. 100 years now, can we take some new steps? You X'd out common sense for a blue check. Ass to some new breasts, design a new shit. Watching your homie shot dead on a news clip. Don't wanna preach to you, just wanna speak to you. Don't let material shit just weaken you. The force is deep in you. Like, look, if you could bang for the streets, then for the cause, would you shoot? Solar Huey Newton, a little Tookie in him. Like Kevin and Nubia, we need a new reunion, a brand new solution. And don't broadcast how we move straight to the point like Kyrie shooting. A fist for this Black Power movement. Let me get a Black Power for Black Power music. Drums of war, Shango's acoustic, played on beats. That's how we do this.
A lot of people, the killings are not going to stop. Institutional racism is still going to be here. The conveyor belt of systemic and institutional racism and how it relates to black people will still be in full effect. So unless we start to plan and intercept that with strategy, with a freedom of death mentality, with an interpersonal greatness to counter the interpersonal racist views many of them have in their minds against us. Drop the ball, we can win in the fourth quarter.
All right, family, peace and Black Power. Don't forget tomorrow, tune at 12 noon. I will have the privilege of having attorney and Dr. Malik Zulu Shabazz talking about this most important book of the century. I call it the Book of Khaled, talking about the running the whole gamut of his life. I'm almost through with it. I got caught up in some of the chapters that I read. I found myself going over them 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 times over again. So much of the information that I did not know. And I'm just so happy that Attorney Shabazz will be giving Baba TV some of his time to talk about this well-needed book for our people and the younger generation. So with that being said, family, thank you, Big Brother Sankofa. This is your house whenever you get ready to come back. Baba